working in a mission clinic for 10 years. This clinic was started by missionaries from America, from Indianapolis, church organization called CMF, Christian Missionary Fellowship. 3 years ago, I started a community clinic in the interior of the community with the community people from contribution cows from village to village, and also my contribution. Then I started the clinic three years ago. I don't have any support from the government. Once in a while when I run down with supplies, I don't have medicines or equipment, I go around again with elders and to get some cows, sheep and sell. I go to the market, we sell the cows, I go to Nairobi, buy the medicine. So I don't have any support at all from the government. I also don't have ambulance, and the roads in the Masai Mara are very, very terrible. It's like we don't have roads. People who are there, they know how they are. So, no, I don't have ambulance. I use a motorbike going to the villages. If I have somebody who is very sick, I use a motorbike. And sometimes back I used to use a donkey or walk to the villages. And I remember one time carrying a young adult on my back all the way to the clinic, several kilometers, and it was, it was not easy. So if I have an emergency or somebody that I can't handle in the clinic, because usually I try to do as much as I can to save that patient, because sometimes when I make a decision to refer a patient to the nearest hospital, which is 120 kilometers away, I don't know how many that in miles, there is no car, maybe the rivers are flooded, and I most of the time I end up losing that patient. So I try to do my level best to save that life, because we don't have ambulance, we don't have the helicopter or anything. So I try to do as much as I can, because the clinic is very, very fast, 6 to 8 hours on drug roads, and the trucks are unreliable, all trucks. So, it's a hard thing to do, and I don't have any support from the government. Thank you.
In regards to the current president of Rwanda, some people think he's a hero, some people think he's a monster.
Thanks for the question. I have not personally met him or spoken with him. My judgment from talking to people in the country is that the truth is probably somewhere in between. It's very difficult to get anybody in Rwanda to speak candidly about what they think about Kagame. And even frankly, somewhat difficult outside of Rwanda, because there are a lot of diplomatic issues and complications, and there's a lot of interest that the U.S. government has and other governments have. So I think with any superlatives like that, I think it's probably somewhere in the middle. But I personally can't say specifically, because I never met the man. But
when you're there, is he seen visually as like a messianic figure? Do you see posters of him everywhere? And
his photo is in virtually every shop, store, even dumb huts, even in any home you go into. Even an interesting note, even the journalist that you saw that was somewhat critical of the government in general, he has a photo of Kagame in his house. He's very present. There are billboards with his face on it. He's definitely, you may have noticed a shot of an umbrella that had his face on it during the movie. He's definitely omnipresent throughout the country, and it's kind of as Kagame goes, so goes the country.
What is it like being in America, where people have so much food, a lot of people are obese, they have access to medicine, they have access to running water? Does it feel unfair?
I don't think it's unfair, but to me, the first time I came here, I was really shocked to see all the buildings, everything people do have here. And I've gone to homes and I see people waste a lot of food, and I know how it is to stay without food. Growing from a very humble and poor background, and the way I grew up, then coming all the way here, to me, I don't feel bad, but I wish people in America know that they are very blessed. And there are so many things that probably people do take for granted, but to me it's an eye-opener for me to be able to be in this part of the world, and at the same time it's a very humbling experience for me, coming to see the life here and growing up in the village. It's a different kind of life that I see down here, and what I see in the villages in Kenya, and how I grew up in my village in Masai Mara. But two different type of lives. But all of us are one people, and I think the most important thing is if we can come together and help each other. Because even if you are very rich, you have electricity, you have a good house, a good car, maybe one day you might come there, you might need my help. I think we need each other to help each other in any situation. Because nobody is too big not to need help, and nobody is too small not to help.
So the question is, now that the government is going to provide some aid, financial aid, to the schools, how might that impact them?
They have been following the British or Kenyan curriculum at the little school, Asatadia School now. So to answer your question, the government will be subsidizing the children to a certain extent because it will be out of the corridor, which is a migration corridor where they are now. But we still need support. The government will only do so much. And the reason ASK will be very involved in the new schools built is because they don't necessarily follow through. I have to be careful what I say. But they don't necessarily follow through with the promises. So yes, we are a legitimate school, official school, government subsidized, hopefully, and we'll see in March.
The Kenya government, I think from 2007, they introduced the pre-primary education for grade 1 to grade 8. They are trying to help in the whole country and forcing all children to go to school, and they are trying to help with the primary education. But with the secondary education and the university education, it is something very, very expensive, and most of the kids from the poor families, some of them are very bright, but they are not able to join secondary school. Maybe a child is number 1 in the national exam at the end of grade 8, but not able to join high school. At the same time, I've seen since the introduction of pre-primary education that the government is trying to supply as much as they can to the schools, but the classes are congested, maybe a class of 100 children, and they don't get the real education. So most of the parents who need their children to get a better education, they send to private schools. So I can say that government is trying to do something, but it is still not enough. More still needs to be done as far as education is concerned. I grew up going to school. I was very lucky to be able to go to school through the force of the police and the government chief. And for the last several years, I've been really working on conservation of wild animals. And I was an official of one of the conservancies in Masai Mara. And at the same time, I've been really fighting a lot for everybody in the community, in the tribe, to get an equal share from the tourist revenue from the wildlife parks and conservancies. And I've made a lot of enemies because really leaders from the tribe, from the Maasai community, try to take all the money generated from all the revenues from the tourists on their own and leaving the community their property. So I've really been working on that, and I've been fighting for several years to see that there is equal distribution of money or resources from the tourism, so that Maasai people will appreciate to conserve the wildlife. And over the last few years, they have started conservancies like Olaro Conservancy and the rest. And at least for the last 5 years, we have already seen money from the tourists benefiting the local people and involved in building of schools and roads and a little bit of money for the health care for the tribe, and at least families earning a little bit of money every end of the month from the conservancies, and I think something which is going to be very, very good, that everybody is able to benefit. So there is hope, and I can see this something getting better and better than the way it was a few years ago.